We are thrilled to be in Pittsburgh. This is my first time in your city. Yay!
Pittsburgh!
I have a Google alert, and I keep hearing stuff about Oakland County and Pittsburgh and all the, really amazing counter-recruitment activism that's happened here over the last years. And in fact, we loved so much of what you did that we decided to highlight some of the best in our book, Army of None. And Army of None is not just about a book that looks at best practices and explores the possibilities, the potential, and the best use of counter-recruitment as a way to make our country better, but it also is part of a project as we are in our 11th city of 40. We're going to be, we go across the country meeting with groups like this in major cities. We finished the Midwest. David was in Richmond, Virginia yesterday. We're here. We go on to Swarthmore. We go, because it's really important in groups like this that we try to explore how strategy works. So really briefly, the reason that I partnered with David to write this book is because I was recruited as a 17-year-old out of my own high school campus. I was desperate for money for college. I'm from a large family with 6 kids. There was no money. And the recruiter who had a desk in the Career Center and who was on campus every day in uniform was part of the backdrop. He was just part of the campus community. I thought he worked there. That's how much he was part of the daily life. And when I needed a quick solution for a big problem, which is college, he put his arm around me and in the most sincere voice said to me, "Amy, you have a problem, but we have a solution in today's Army. We'll pay for your college. We'll solve your problem." And I believed him. And it wasn't until after I was in the military that I discovered that the fundamental things that he told me, and a lot of stuff that no one ever told me about being in the military itself, led me, first of all, I never got a cent of that money. I always say I could have worked at McDonald's and made more money than my time in the Army. And eventually, over 6 years, I came to the point where I became opposed to war and became a conscientious objector and was discharged that way. And have dedicated the last over a decade of my life to working one-on-one to help young people really think about what their own role is, help them to think about how they can have a better life without having to commit to sign up to the military and change themselves and also be part of that institution that is so horrible around the world. So that's where I come in. And David and I have a circle that somewhat overlaps, but David has a whole nother approach into counter-recruitment. So.
Yeah, so thanks for coming out. I'm basically here to cheerlead folks here in Pittsburgh because for me the motive behind the book and traveling around and sharing stories is to basically support the work that's been going on here, and that Pittsburgh is the cutting edge nationally. I mean, we've been traveling around the country, and there's lots of people doing incredible stuff, but in terms of consistency and mixing up community organizing and direct action, Pittsburgh is, I would say, more developed than anywhere I can think of in the country. So you should be proud. Pittsburgh. So we already did it here, but we'll take whatever stories you tell us. We've already been talking about the fast as we traveled around and pass them on, and so that's one of the things we're doing. Is the book at the core is some information, but a lot of it's just stories and circulating stories for different people. So we'll talk about befriend a recruiter that we learned about from IVAW in Chicago tonight, some other stuff like that. But I've been trying to, in different ways, overthrow our government and the wars that it sponsors and create something better and more democratic for quite a while. And the last 5 years have been focused on the war in Iraq and the policies behind it. And spent a lot of time around 2003 and 2004 shutting our city down, shutting down the corporations that are involved in the war. And, after the U.S. invaded, went through a process of reflection with a lot of friends, including people here, and we were all scratching our heads figuring, okay, what do we do now? And so to me that led to 2 things. One is supporting people like Amy, soldiers who had decided to take a stand in a lot of different ways. Because, we talk in the book about it. There's three parts. The first part is about recruitment, the second part is about counter-recruitment, and the third part is about people power strategy. So we're partly taking what people are already doing around the country, and that I think people are intuitively drawn towards counter-recruitment and GI resistance and some of the other work around media and corporations, because they sense that it's actually going to come down to we, the people, are going to have to stop the war ourselves. The politicians aren't going to do it for us. And, there's a presidential election coming up, but there's also, our history, which is, in World War I, it was, I believe, Hoover who ran on a promise that I won't get the United States involved in that war of those crazy Europeans. And then he got elected, and guess what happened? And then President Nixon got elected. I was a little young then, but I heard. He got elected, and he said, I'll bring the troops home from Vietnam. And then he got elected, and not only did he not do that, but he bombed Cambodia. And so now we're going to have a bunch of politicians running for office who are going to say, I'll get the troops out. And they're going to use anti-war sentiment to try and do that. And then they're going to get elected, and what's going to happen? So I think it's up to us. So I see in the counter-recruitment work, especially that people are doing, and supporting soldiers who are resisting in a lot of different ways, that people are intuitively coming to a place of like, okay, we're going to have to stop the war ourselves. How do we do that? And so the idea of a people power strategy is to take what people are already doing and articulate it into a framework so people can see what they do locally as fitting into a bigger picture. And I'll just one thought about that is I was very proud of our area. After the day after the war started, we had planned, okay, what the hell are we going to do if they actually invade? Which we don't think that they should do, and so we planned a shutdown of our financial district because we saw that's where all the big money flows in and out of the western United States. And we thought the corporations were behind the war. So the day after the war started at 7 a.m., there were thousands of us in the streets. A few thousand of us were organized into small affinity groups and action groups, and we took over intersections and blockaded corporations and government buildings. And then throughout the morning, more and more people kept coming. And the magical part that I think I try and figure out how to do as a bigger strategy is there was a moment where it went from those of us who were already organized and had a plan to everyone who showed up on the street would spontaneously join us. So like my cluster did lockdowns and blockaded Market Street, and after about an hour, people just kept showing up and they were very moved, so they would just sit down. And as we got dragged out, someone else would sit down and take our place. And that was happening with thousands of people. And so I'm trying to think, okay, that strategy worked for one day in one city. How could we take that, and it was really that same model as shutting down the WTO in Seattle. How can we take that, sort of that microcosm of successful strategy and expand it all over the country? And so that's sort of what I'm trying to think about and dialogue with people about. Can we create a national or international strategic framework to shut down the war ourselves? And I think counter-recruitment is a key part of it. GI resistance, corporations, media, those are the pillars which, if we shake them loose, it weakens it. So, and people in this country have stopped wars before, and they're not natural. People don't want to fight them.